Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to another Snapshot video. This is Snapshot 21w10a and this marks the arrival of Lush Caves into world generation. Kind of. You might look around at this world and think there's something a little bit weird here. There's no other biomes in sight. There don't seem to be any animals or anything either, and there are very few trees. And that is because Lush Caves don't generate as part of default Minecraft worlds yet. So what you want to do is go into more world options, set your world type to single biome, click on customize, and in the buffet world customization options here, if you scroll down, you'll find Lush Caves right there below Lukewarm Ocean. You'll also find Dripstone Caves here if you haven't checked those out already, but we covered those in a previous snapshot, and we've covered some aspects of Lush Caves as well, but they weren't added as part of terrain generation until now. So we're going to hit done, and when the world launches, we are left with the landscape that you saw right at the beginning of this video. So now that we're here in the world, I need to set off towards the nearest trees and start punching some wood. Unfortunately, these trees don't have any kind of unique wood type associated with them yet, despite the leaves being the brand new Azalea leaves, and we got some exciting stuff down here in the ravine, which I'll get to in a second. These are basically standard oak logs in the trees, and since we don't have any animals around here right now, we're going to have to play it a little bit safe as regards how we get food from this world, because yes, I am going to be tackling this world in survival once again. My idea here is that I want to get down to Deepslate cave level to see how the new Lush Caves generate, not only in the caves above Y0, but the caves below Y0 as well. And after that, we'll go into a few more changes to the world in Creative, along with a couple of really interesting changes that have been made to Minecraft's rendering engine here in Java Edition, because there's some pretty exciting stuff on the horizon. But as you can see, this Azalea tree is dropping Azalea saplings for me now, which I can replant here on the dirt. I don't know for certain if I'm going to be able to do anything to grow these yet, and that will require getting bone meal somehow, so we'll get to that in a second. But you'll notice this is also planted on rooted dirt, and these Azalea trees, when they generate as part of a default world, are going to be a sign that there is a Lush Cave underneath here. So if you're looking for Lush Caves specifically, and you don't run across one while you are caving, then you'll probably see one of these on the surface, and see that as a sign that you need to dig on down. Since the Lush Cave is not going to have any natural mob spawns, though, we're not entirely certain how axolotls are going to spawn yet, but it's fairly certain that they aren't going to spawn here on the surface. We don't really have any source of food beyond glowberries, which hopefully we'll be able to find once we start caving, and maybe we'll be able to grow a few of those as well. But I'm going to quickly run over and check this abandoned nether portal, this ruined nether portal here, because, yeah, we've got a few things to get us started here. We've got a fortune hoe, which might be good for getting ourselves a few more saplings and stuff, I guess. And at least we can wear this, oh, Curse of Vanishing chestplate, of course. So let's see if we can get a few more saplings out of this, and at least that way we might have something that we can compost. We've got an Azalea and a flowering Azalea sapling, and yeah, jury's still out on exactly what makes those different, but maybe we will find out. Anyway, the first step here, as always, is going to be to get some tools and stuff together. So we're going to create a crafting table, we're going to make ourselves a pickaxe, and we're going to start getting some resources from the natural world around us. I did just spot a little bit of coal here next to this lake, which is perfect. I'll grab a bit of that with the stone pickaxe once I've got hold of one of those. There we go, we're into the Stone Age already. And like I said, the idea is to get down to Deepslate cave level to check out a couple of changes down there and see what the Lush Caves have done to the environment down there, because it seems like all of the cave variants are going to stretch down into the lower parts of the world as well. I tell you what, let's get ourselves a gold helmet. I don't see any better use for those 5 gold ingots right now, so we are going Winnie the Pooh style into this episode apparently. Right, let's get ourselves a little bit more stone from here. We'll get enough for a furnace, I guess, because we'll still need to smelt iron even if we don't have any normal food to be getting on with. And yeah, this is going to be a bit more of a challenge than I think it normally is, because we're already starting to lose a little bit of hunger. There's a little bit of coal here in the walls of this overhang, which I'll need for some torches. Even though glowberries are going to light our way in these Lush Caves, I will grab a few light sources because I might need to eat the glowberries, and it's going to be nice to replace them with torches. We've also got some copper over there, but I don't think I will need to bring any copper with me. I don't plan on crafting anything out of copper when I'm down here. Let's look for a decent cave entrance. That seems like a likely candidate to me, unless this just leads to a hollow kind of hill, but yeah, maybe this will lead on down somewhere. Well, at first this cave looked like a bit of a write-off, but this little aquifer down the back might actually take us down as far as somewhere we can find some iron ore. I'm hoping, yeah, there's a little bit down there, but without any aqua affinity, I think I'm going to struggle to, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to last very long down here. Well, having now taken a little bit of damage, and with the sun setting over there, I kind of want to head down here, and it looks like, yes, okay, we have a lush cave down here, which is great. We'll be able to get a little bit of food from the vines here, and there's a spore blossom there already. So what we're seeing right now is that lush caves will be able to generate in even the tightest of spaces, and there we go, we've got our first glow berries. Now, what I'm wondering here is, what do I need to use to dig up moss blocks? Okay, just a shovel, it looks like. And if I can compost these, then we will be kind of off to the races here. Let me explain. Yes, okay, so by digging up the moss blocks here, I've actually been able to compost them and turn them into bone meal, and bone meal will grow glow berries on these cave vines, which means if I continue to dig up the surrounding landscape here, we might actually be able to provide a renewable source of food if we just compost each of the moss blocks that we find, which seem to compost pretty well. And we've got moss carpet here that we can compost as well, probably a little bit slower, but that produces another piece of bone meal. From that, we can actually grow a little bit more moss in the surrounding environment if we need to, and we can use it to grow some more glowberries. And glowberries, of course, if I don't look at any other blocks because I don't want to plant them, will be our food source. And there we go. It's taken a second or two here, but I've managed to get myself enough glowberries that I'm able to fully heal up from the damage I took swimming around. And finally, we can start to light this place up a little bit, and hopefully we'll be able to track down some iron while we're in here so that I can start working on a shield and gearing up for a caving expedition. And we've got some really low-ceilinged caves in here. This actually seems to have generated a really wide and flat tunnel, but we're actually getting a lot of moss growing on the ceiling of some of these as well, which is going to be perfect for my composting supplies. We have a few more glowberries growing down here as well, and I'm starting to hear a few mobs around, so we're probably going to be digging down into a slightly larger cave fairly soon. Hopefully that means a little bit of iron in the neighboring walls, and I think that has improved a little bit in terms of ore generation since the last snapshot. Moss mechanics remain the same as they were before, though. If I bone meal a block next to moss, it's going to grow it in the surrounding environment. It does seem to spread up and down by Y coordinate now as well, so we're actually going to start to see moss taking over some material above and below where you spawn it, and that looks like it's working pretty well to me. Okay, yeah, looks like the cave is opening out a little bit here. I'm seeing some copper in the walls around me, but unfortunately not much in the way of iron. The good thing about this cave, though, is that with the glowberries lighting up a lot of it, we're not seeing a whole lot of natural mob spawns as I come down here. We've just got the one baby zombie, it looks like. Hello, I heard you through the walls. There we go, we got our Monster Hunter advancement, and only a little bit of damage taken, so only 1 or 2 glowberries needed to patch things up. And if I get that skeleton that I've been hearing through the walls around here, I might actually have a chance at growing a few more glowberries with the bones that it will drop. Thankfully, I've got a bit of iron here as well, so hopefully I can gather a bit more of that before the creeper comes to demolish the whole thing for me. There we go, got rid of the creeper as well, and hopefully I'll be able to gather the rest of this iron in peace. And I actually see the skeleton up there amongst the moss, so we'll make a run for him in a second once I've been able to make myself a shield. I will definitely need to craft one of those if I'm going to survive down here for any great length of time, but hopefully our wood supplies will hold up and we'll be able to get a bit more wood as we have in a previous video from an abandoned mineshaft somewhere down here. With shield in hand, though, we should be able to go and take on this skeleton. Yes, not today, thank you. Let's see if we can get a couple more bones off of you, and then we'll be able to grow ourselves a slightly better supply of food. We got 1 bone. All right, that's good for 3 bone meals, so we'll get a few more glowberries out of that, and we can grab some from the cave walls around here as well. And oh, our salvation is here. There's a chicken in the cave. Incredible. I don't know how this guy spawned, maybe as a baby zombie chicken jockey, but I might have to keep you around, my friend, because we might need to get some eggs. We've now got enough iron for an iron pickaxe. The recipes don't seem to be popping up in my recipe book the way they normally do, which is kind of weird, but I'm going to get myself a bucket as well because we might encounter some more lava lakes while we are down here. Let's pack up the furnace and stuff for now, and let's keep an eye on where that chicken went. I think he was still hanging around over here, or she probably. Hopefully it's going to lay us some eggs. Of course, if we want some more substantial food, we could also break some of this grass for wheat seeds, and I'm not certain you can hoe moss, but there's certainly dirt generating in some of these caves, so we might be able to start a little farm down here as well. But once again, that's going to take either a little bit of bone meal or a lot of patience, and I'm not sure if I have either right now, so maybe we can start a little bread farm for some slightly more sustaining food in the near future. In fact, having composted a few more moss blocks, I realized that I was picking up wheat seeds from the grass that grows naturally in here, so we can actually grow our own little wheat farm down here. If we have a water source, we could potentially hydrate that, but I think maybe what we might be better off doing is just bone mealing the wheat. Let's make a stone hoe here real quick. Bone meal some wheat in this spot here, and that way, there we go, we should be able to get ourselves a little bit of bread. In the meantime, I found a whole pack of skeletons over here, and they seem to have started a little bit of a fight amongst themselves. So hopefully, yes, we should be able to get a few bones out of this, and if I take out some of the others, then maybe we'll be able to get one more off of you. Yes, perfect. Okay, how many bones did we get? We got 3 in the end. Well, that should be enough. And we're picking up some iron on the way. Iron, by the way, has a new texture. I don't know if you've noticed that, but they have been tweaking the textures a little bit more, and they, frankly, look really good right now, I think. I really like this iron texture. It has a little bit more of what the classic iron had, but a new, modern, refreshed look is perfect for it. And now we have enough iron that I think I should be able to finish off my suit of armor and maybe have enough for backup tools. And with just enough bone meal to replant this wheat a few more times, we now have enough for 2 loaves of bread, which is a bit of an upgrade from glowberries, if I'm honest with you guys. And I don't want to wolf it all down immediately, but I really have no choice because those skeletons did get a couple of hits on me there. It actually looks like your fists, or basically any tool, is pretty good at breaking moss overall, so I can gather a few more moss blocks that way. I was thinking there was a specific tool for it, and I tried the hoe and the shovel, and pretty much everything seems to be about the same level of efficiency. So if you want to gather a lot of moss, just punch your way through it, I guess. And with enough iron for leggings as well, here is my next question. If we head on down into this little section of cave here, clear out a little bit of space, including gathering some of this lapis. There we go. We can mine the lapis with a stone pickaxe, which is worth doing, I suppose. Only a little bit of lapis from that, but we won't need it for all that much. If I place a moss block down, let's say around here, and I'm not certain how much space this tree will want to grow, but let's at least see if we can bone meal the azalea sapling we got from the surface. No, it looks like we can't. In fact, this is probably an azalea sapling I picked up from around here, because I have been, bone mealing the floor of the cave for moss and gathering stuff. Well, that's enough dawdling around here. I'll just have to collect a little bit of food from the glowberries as I go. I think I'm going to try and make my way further down into the world through this cave system, as long as it goes a little bit further down. We're certainly getting down as far as gold ore, which is looking pretty promising to me, and as we explore, we're going to find pockets of light throughout the cave which indicate the presence of some more glowberries here and there. Looks like we might be getting to the end of this little dugout. Yeah, not to worry. We can turn back around and try some of these other passageways, because sooner or later, hopefully, we'll make it down to below Y0, and hopefully we'll get to take a look at what the Deepslate caves look like as they are covered in lush cave terrain. Well, in the end, I ended up staircasing downwards because that cave system wasn't really leading anywhere, but this has led me somewhere, and it looks like down here amongst the deep slate layers we have found ourselves in, of course, another lush cave, and this has really started to conform to the environment really nicely. So I'm going to try and staircase my way down here, being as careful as I can, because I still don't really have a great deal of good gear on me, and we might end up running into a few mobs while we're down here, chances are. But luckily, we do have a couple of points of light around here, and that is, of course, because the glowberries have started to generate, and that's giving a little bit of light to the area that wasn't there previously. That should be enough for me to hop down here, take care of the local zombies, and now we can start planting our own light sources down here. We got some torches. There we go. In lush caves, you'll find a bunch of water sources generating with these clay blocks around. The spore blossoms will be generating spores from up there in the ceiling, and further down, of course, we're going to find things like dripleaf plants, which are, of course, those parkour plants that tilt down and release you if you stand on them for too long. We're also going to find that there are going to be small drip leaf plants growing in these little clay basins down here, but of course, the majority of the stuff you're going to find is much like it is further up. We're going to find vines, cave vines growing up there with the glowberries dangling from them, and a carpet of moss and azalea pretty much everywhere else. One thing about the moss, though, is that it will not overwrite ore blocks, so there's a little bit of redstone ore down here. Not exactly the ore I was looking for, but I'll take it anyway, and my inventory is getting super cluttered right now. I really wish there were rabbits around here so that I could make myself a bundle. I could just make a chest and drop all of my supplies in that, but I don't really fancy sparing the wood right now. Having said that, though, it looks like this cave might travel off in this direction some, and if I can avoid the creepers over here, got to be sparing with my arrows as well, then maybe we can sneak on past and go and take a look at what the cave is looking like in this direction. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. It's like some sort of valley from Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's like a prehistoric valley that we found. There are slimes here, and oh gosh, this landscape down here is just fascinating. It seems to be a cave that's generated in this kind of like oval shape on its side, and there's so much stuff down there. We've got some of the plants growing out of the water as well. There are mobs aplenty down here, so I've sort of got to watch my step, but I reckon up there we might actually get a slightly better look from this, so I'm going to try and hop my way up here and see what we can see from the top of this ridge. Aside from a whole heap of zombies, what I'm seeing here is a beautiful natural environment. This is more what I was expecting when I was looking for lush caves from the surface. So let me see if I can hop up here and defend myself against these skeletons, and that is what I'm talking about. This right here is a massive cavern that's been converted into a lush cave down here in the lower part of the world, and it looks absolutely beautiful. I don't really think I'm going to last long in here, though, because the locals are out to get me, and it looks like the baby zombies are now immune to knockback. Oh, gosh. Well, yeah, with limited food supply, that was never really going to last all that long, was it? So let's fly on down in Spectator mode and take a look at the cave that we just died in, because, oh, there was the abandoned mineshaft. Of course, there was bound to be one around there sooner or later. Honestly, having resisted doing this for the previous snapshots, flying around in Spectator mode is much better in this snapshot, primarily because the glowberries actually light up the entirety of the environment when you're down here in a lush cave. We actually get a feel for how these caves look without having to mess around with night vision, and believe me, it's an absolute treat down here, especially with the way this abandoned mineshaft generated. This is wild looking. And now, naturally, we're not going to run into lush caves nearly as much as this when the final world generation is settled on, but frankly, I think just coming across something like this every so often would be a real treat, and the lush cave environment has been tailor-fit to suit some of these larger areas like this, where there's going to be glowberries dangling from the ceiling and spore blossoms leaving those particles floating around in the air. It's a magical feel to the underground in Minecraft now, and I absolutely love the way this is headed. Just look at the adjoining cave, where we have a cave spider spawner suspended in the middle of these beautiful watery layers. And the clay here splitting up these aquifers really does feel kind of special. I really like the feel of these environments, and it's also going to be a really great source of clay now that I come to think of it, where previously you've had to struggle to find clay in swamps if you wanted it and you didn't want to trade with stonemasons for your bricks. And then further down in the world, as the lush caves head towards the deep slate layers, we're going to find deep slate caves like the one we unfortunately just died in, generating like this, and I think it's going to be a really fun thing to find some of these down amongst the relatively bleak environment of the lower regions of the world. And if you were worried about the absence of lava lakes in the previous snapshots, don't worry, they've been added back in style down here at the lower regions of the deep slate caves. These giant lava pools will now generate, and I believe we are still getting the occasional lava lake in caves as you come down from the surface, so don't worry too much about that. But once again, this jungle gym environment that's been created with the abandoned mineshaft in here is really quite special, and that right there just goes to show how varied these caves are going to look once they are in the final world generation. They may not end up being this big, but they are certainly going to be this pretty. And I hope the lush caves do extend to sizes like this, because oh my goodness, it's going to be a glorious world down here. Of course, if you wanted the Lush Cave environment to stretch this far, you could always try and extend it yourself, because as we've seen, it's very easy to bone meal moss to get it to grow over where you want it, and it does highlight some of the diamonds in the Deepslate ore down here quite nicely, doesn't it? I think exploring these caves with the dripstone caves as well as the Lush Caves is going to make it a really special place to be. And I wonder when the Warden is going to come along to spoil all of our fun, or just, you know, make the exploration down here a little bit more exciting and dangerous. Flying around in spectator mode and clipping through the terrain, though, this place really does feel like it is coming alive in new and interesting ways. Once again, we're not going to see all of the caves underground like this, but to be honest, I almost wouldn't mind. I wouldn't complain. I like having this lush, almost jungle-like environment underground, and I'm hoping that we see a lot more of these lush caves in the near future. Terrain generation seems to have been tightened up a little bit too, and they've really got a great balance between these winding spaghetti tunnels of caves and abandoned mineshafts and these large bulbous cavernous spaces. I think this is a really great set of caves now, and I'm really excited to explore a little bit more of them. With all that said though, it's time to come back to the surface, and I'm going to pause the day-night cycle so that we can go over some of the other changes that have been made in this snapshot. To start with, Deepslate. It is keeping the name, but it has a slightly different top texture now. It's no longer quite as smooth as it was before. Let's take a look at how it transitions from stone into, let's say, cobbled Deepslate looks... Oh, that does look a little bit different now. Okay, so the side texture is on all of the sides, and yeah, it does seem like the cobbled Deepslate block has gone through a few changes as well. Once again, that's still going to make for a neat transition into blocks like basalt and then blackstone, so a really neat addition to the color palette. And from what I understand, Deepslate can now be placed in a variety of orientations. Yes, fantastic. So this is actually now a block that can be placed rotationally. It can be placed against any axis, and it will change the orientation of the texture. Having vertical stripes of that is actually really quite attractive, so I might try and get a few more builds like that. Vertical stripes like that don't come along every day. They don't tend to show up in the majority of textures. It's like tree bark almost, but fossilized tree bark maybe. Compare Deepslate to Acacia though, and it's still a very different texture, so maybe not quite as tree-like as I thought, and is of course not going to be the same on all 6 sides. But excited to see what people do with Deepslate. I've certainly got a few ideas knocking around for it as well. The Deepslate block palette has been expanded even further with the addition of cracked Deepslate bricks and cracked Deepslate tiles. I'll place some of these down next to their original counterparts so you can get a better idea of what we're looking at here. So there we go. We've got the regular tiles there, the cracked tiles, the regular bricks, and the cracked bricks. The crack is quite emphatic in there. It's got this kind of spiderweb pattern as though it's just been punched right in the middle of the block. Maybe the Warden has done that, who knows. But yeah, there's clearly a expanded palette of these, and the cracks on the Deepslate tiles are a lot more subtle. Feels a little bit more weathered, which I really like the look of actually, and it's going to combine with the regular tile texture very nicely, I think. Subtle, but it's certainly there. We're also going to find infested Deepslate, which if I go back into survival mode and break that, that's of course going to contain silverfish for the lower regions of the world. If you're curious about the silverfish that popped up in my last snapshot exploration of the caves, they were still popping out of infested stone blocks, but of course silverfish are going to be able to hide in infested Deepslate now, which is going to make them even trickier to spot when you're trying to mine for diamonds. And now I'm going to kill all of them with the command because I hate silverfish. They're the worst. Alright, what else do we have in this snapshot? Well, we have a couple of additional ore blocks which weren't previously in the game because copper and coal and iron did not generate in Deepslate levels. They're simply not meant to be found down there. However, the map makers of the world might want to use some of these textures, and so Mojang have decided to put these ores in the game for people anyway, so that they can hide amongst the regular blocks of Deepslate that generate naturally in the world. It kind of gives the iron ore a bit of a camo look, which is kind of neat. I'm quite interested to see how people will use some of these, but you'll only find them in the creative mode inventory. You won't find them generating naturally in the world. It is subtle, but there are also a few changes to the existing ore blocks. I believe just the shading of the diamonds has been updated, so they're a little bit brighter in spots, a little bit darker in others. We've seen the texture of iron ore and coal ore already. Coal ore is a bit more of a subtle change, but the stripes have been taken out of the iron ore texture, and now that's looking, as I said, a little bit more like the classic iron, just updated and modernized a little bit. And I honestly like this texture more than any of the others they've used so far. I think it's a pretty great texture for iron. But perhaps one of the biggest changes this snapshot has introduced is not even necessarily all that visible to the naked eye, but it is responsible for everything we are looking at, because the rendering engine has now been updated to OpenGL Core 3.2. Now, I'm not really a technical guy. I don't know much about what this actually involves, but from my understanding, it's just a more up-to-date version of what Minecraft uses to render the environment. And now that we have fabulous graphics available to us in here, you can actually do some really interesting stuff, although it does say this might severely impact performance for 4K displays, which is what I have, so we'll see how this works out. But Xylephian, one of the developers for Minecraft Java Edition, has been working on a couple of interesting things that you can do with this. For example, if I add this blustery day resource pack and I hit done, you will notice some stuff changes about the environment. It's very subtle at first, but you can kind of see it in the leaves of some of the trees. If you look at the birch trees over here, or if you look at the surface of the water, we might be able to see it a little bit as well. Let's take a quick look over here, and yes, are those leaves moving? I think they are. Isn't that wild? So this is something that shaders do when you install shaders through Optifine a lot of the time, but it is something that's now kind of natively supported by Java Edition. And in Xylephian's Twitter, he also showed some of the water surface kind of moving around as well. I wasn't certain if that was included with this or not, and it may be something that just doesn't work for me for some reason, but just the fact that those leaves can blow ever so slightly and grass and flowers might be able to wave in the wind as well is really quite special, and that's all natively supported by vanilla Minecraft now. Now, I'm not sure if that means we're going to be able to have, sun god rays and more realistic lighting and stuff added into Minecraft in the fullness of time. Shader pack creators like folks like Silder and Sonic Ether and so forth might have the answer to stuff like that. But in the meantime, what this represents is a bit of a change in what Minecraft needs to run. So let's just stand amongst the swirling leaves of this birch forest and watch the forest on the other side of this little valley here burn down. And I think that is where we're going to call it for this video. I wish I'd been able to spend a bit more time in Lush Caves in survival, but honestly, the food situation is kind of dire, I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully you enjoyed the video at least, and I can't wait to check out the Lush Caves in their natural environment once they and Dripstone Caves start to get introduced to default terrain generation. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you so much for watching this video. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.